What's going on, people? My name is Batman, and today I want to talk about why it's important that game developers and YouTubers alike be unafraid to tackle political topics in their work. This country has been torn asunder by the incredibly powerful industrial division complex. Cable news and social media have quarantined us from one another. They promote conflict because it gets views. They want politics to be a boxing match, a football game, a street fight, because these are things that everyone can't help but watch. Politics is toxic. The country is divided because billionaires and media personalities want it to be that way. They make money off of the boxing match and they don't want it to end because then they can't sell any more tickets. As Republican Senator John McCain put it in a Senate floor speech, and I quote, "They don't want anything done for the public good. Our incapacity is their livelihood." In this new world where the billionaire class and pieces of dog shit like Sean Hannity have devoted themselves to turning us against one another, we need artists and their artwork, now more than ever, to take a stand, to make a point, to tackle even the most politically charged and toxic issues of our time. Unfortunately, a toxic attitude of suppression has infected YouTube and our online gaming communities. Whenever I bring up something political, I inevitably face a cavalcade of comments telling me not to make it political, that I don't know what I'm talking about, it's not my place, and if I do it again, they'll unsubscribe. This suppressive mentality extends much farther than my YouTube channel. When the fight spilled into football stadiums across the nation, the NFL's ratings plummeted, with many Trump supporters declaring they'll refuse to watch football so long as the league allows some of its players to kneel. Eminem did that freestyle, raking Trump through very hot coals, and months later on completely unrelated Facebook posts, the top comments still consisted of hundreds of people admonishing him for disrespecting the president, doing their best to let his social media manager know he had lost fans. Sean Hannity prefers child molesters to Democrats, so he defended one for days on end, making his show so toxic with the left half of America that Keurig Coffee Maker decided to pull advertising. In retaliation, conservatives brutally destroyed their own coffee makers. I don't mean to suggest here that this sort of behavior is exclusive to Trump supporters. Certainly we remember how trigger-happy the left could be with protesting speakers in the past, going so far as to even turn on Bill Maher of all people. However, there is an incredibly frustrating irony in the fact that so many on the right now foaming at the mouth over coffee makers and football players are the same fools who spent all of 2016 deriding safe spaces and political correctness. The point is, if it can happen to football, music, and coffee makers, it can of course happen to video games. Indeed, in some cases it already has. When Wolfenstein appropriated Trump's campaign slogan, it set off a firestorm among many of his supporters. Far Cry 5 has already seen smatterings of criticism for a setting that may strike a little too close to home for some people. Smatterings that I suspect will erupt into something much larger when the game actually releases. If you're a games publisher interested in selling to both halves of America, surveying the present political discourse, would you not feel incentivized to sanitize your content, to avoid certain subjects altogether? I can tell you for a fact it's intimidated me for a long time, too long. And I know a lot of YouTubers who feel that way. And why wouldn't we? When I criticized Trump for not coming out in favor of net neutrality, I lost a lot of subscribers. I'll probably lose subs for this motherfucker right here, but so be it. I only regret that I do not have a million more to lose for my country. I worry that behind the scenes, developers are shying away from anything that could be considered political in their games out of fear that they might be the next NFL or Keurig Coffee Maker, which is sad because artistic expression, whether it's video games or YouTube videos, plays such an important role in political discourse. There are so often important points and perspectives that are better explored and understood through artistic means. Think of things like 1984, Animal Farm, Lord of the Flies. These are works of fiction that are required reading in schools so we can understand the dangers of things like fascism and communism. When you look at an issue like gay marriage, which saw a rapid 40-point reversal in public opinion over a decade, most experts attribute that reversal to popular entertainment. Shows like Will and Grace, Glee, Desperate Housewives, Modern Family. Think of the Beatles in the Soviet Union. Think of movies like Super Size Me. I knew McDonald's was unhealthy, but I didn't stop eating it until I saw that movie, as did so many other people that McDonald's had to remove the supersize option altogether. Works of art often play an important role in our understanding of the problems we face as a society, and I truly believe from the bottom of my heart that even if most people don't see it yet, gaming is mankind's most potent art form. What was Halo, if not a valuable lesson in the dangers of letting false prophets lead you into war for religious causes that turn out to be fantasy? I recently replayed one of my favorite game series of all times, Knights of the Old Republic, and I was struck by how political those games were. The terrorist storyline was all about income inequality, where the rich literally got to live on top of the underclasses, and racism, except instead of whites and blacks it was humans and aliens. Kashyyyk was about 1800 imperial colonialism, where foreign invaders conquer natives and exploit their resources and sell them into slavery, making corrupt deals with native leaders to retain control. In the second game, Telos was all about corporate greed destroying a planet's environment. Andron was about the pros and cons of a planet exiting the Republic. And the characters in favor of staying said the economic and security benefits were too important. The people trying to leave said they didn't like being told what to do. Don't you get it? They were talking about Brexit a decade before it happened. And I was too young to appreciate it back then, but I've grown up in Trump country. Everyone I'm close to is a Trump supporter. My best friends, my mom, my grandma. And I always wonder, how did I turn out so differently? And I honestly think it might be because fucking KOTOR brainwashed me to be a liberal when I was like 10. And thank Christ for that. If only more people had played their KOTOR, maybe we wouldn't have elected Jabba the Hutt. More recently, one of the most political games of all time was Skyrim. What if I told you that Skyrim had predicted the 2016 election? The Stormcloaks were nationalists who felt their country's decline was the result of the Empire's foreign corruption and an influx of immigrants. The sentiments behind Skyrim belongs to the Nords, not so different from Make America Great Again. And playing through the game, the player has shown that the Nords kind of had a point. There was a lot of foreign corruption, but at the same time, we see what it was like to be an immigrant in Skyrim. The lizard and cat people who are mistreated and discriminated against. You learn about how many moderate Jarls disagreed with much of the Stormcloaks' ideology and tactics, but went along with it because they supported the larger cause. The storyline raises questions about the legitimacy of Ulfric Stormtrump's intentions. Does he really believe the shit he talks, or does he just want the high throne for himself? And of course, the cherry on top is when you find out that the Thalmor, those foreigners which the Stormcloaks think they are rebelling against, are in fact secretly aiding the Stormcloak rebellion to prolong a civil war that weakens the country which they see as an adversary. You find books that describe how they fed false intelligence, that is, fake news, to Ulfric and the Stormcloaks to convince them of the Empire's corruption, and they even had a plan to save Ulfric from his execution if the dragon hadn't shown up. Because the the Thalmor, wanted the civil war to continue. They wanted to keep the country divided for their own benefit. And it of course asks the larger question, if the Stormcloaks had won, would they have been in a better position to confront the Aldemiri Dominion by themselves? Replace the Empire with the United States, the Stormcloaks with far-right nationalists, and the Thalmor with Russia, and you have the 2016 storyline. It is eerie how identical it is. The biggest difference being that Ulfric was a badass and Trump is a deranged porn addict suffering from neurosyphilis. Skyrim was basically able to predict our current predicament because the issues we are facing today are different versions of the same issues we've faced since the beginning of civilization. Succession, foreign interests interference, the betrayal of corporate interests who make nice with the enemy to line their own pockets. Loyalty, weighed against injustice, weighed against pragmatism, weighed against principle. They could be describing 2017 America, Scotland in Braveheart, Vietnam in the 70s, Iran in the 50s. I remember having some of these thoughts back when the game first came out, but I didn't want to say anything because I was worried I'd lose subscribers. But god damn it, I should have talked more about Skyrim. For people to really appreciate the depth and significance of gaming as an art form, games YouTubers can't be afraid to explore that depth and significance, even if it means sharing thoughts that might make others uncomfortable. These games communicate things to you in a way that is so much more effective than reading about it in a textbook that you're barely able to pay attention to. It's so technical and boring, and about a period of time or a place that's larger context is so unknown to you that you can't appreciate the significance of the events themselves when you don't understand how they play into the larger world at the time. It's more effective than some allegorical fiction that's required reading in school and you barely understand the parallels taking place because you're a dipshit 13-year-old and you're stressed because you got your first blowjob last night, but she's got a boyfriend, but she's gonna break up with him, but you don't even want her to. You don't even actually like her. And worst of all, you don't know where your cleats are for practice after class. How the fuck am I gonna learn Lord of the Flies and understand the significance of Piggy's glasses when I don't even know how I'm gonna eat lunch that day because I forgot to ask mom for money? And look at the debates people are having on these forums. Long, detailed arguments with hundreds of participants about the pros and cons of succession from the Empire. Debates where kids really care and they're really interested and genuinely curious. In a way you can't be when you're just having knowledge talked at you and you regurgitate it back on a piece of paper later. Skyrim was our 1984. And nobody even realized it because we've been too afraid to talk politics too long. What else could gaming explore? Call of Duty loves to do graphic shit, right? Remember they did the mass shooting in the Russian airport? It was, it was edgy and deep. Oh my gosh. Oh, I know. Maybe this time around they could have you run a concentration camp. Play that level for 15 minutes and then see how you feel about those fucking inbreds marching that flag down our streets. Regardless of your politics, games like KOTOR and Skyrim got you thinking about real issues. Do we band together or go it alone? Can we make common cause with people that don't look like us, weren't raised like us, that don't think like us? Do we let our enemies divide us? These questions are as old as man, and more importantly, they are interesting and relevant, and they make you think and they make you feel. They ask questions you don't immediately know the answer to. You don't know how the story is going to end or what the in-game world is going to look like when it's over. You might not even know what you want it to look like. But do games writers have the balls to write those kinds of stories anymore? After Skyrim, Bethesda put out Fallout 4. Its major theme was that robots are people too, and if you disagree, you're a piece of shit. BioWare, the team behind KOTOR, most recently put out Mass Effect Andromeda, which everyone agrees was vapid derivative trash. Bungie's latest stories are literally some shit a 7-year-old would conjure up, daydreaming about sci-fi in class. The darkness attacks Earth for no apparent reason, and magic space superheroes save the day. In the sequel, some super ripped bad guy aliens aliens attack Earth because they want to kill humans, and the magic superheroes save the day again. So deep, much think. They don't make them like they used to, because people are getting upset about things they didn't used to. When Battlefield 1 launched, half the top comments were people pissed off that the cover was a black guy. When Battlefront 2 put its first story mode trailer up, half the comments were people pissed off that the main character was a woman. Classic KOTOR would have been a goddamn minefield for these people. Fucking Starbucks said Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas and people went bananas. You think a game like Classic KOTOR could release, give you dark side points for doing Brexit on Ondron, and not become the subject of some viral protest campaign? Nobody interested in keeping customers is going to come anywhere near anything that could be considered or even just misinterpreted as political, when the slightest misstep might turn their game into the next Keurig coffee maker. And that sucks for us as gamers because it means we get boring stories and watered down content. I shudder to think of how many interesting YouTube videos will never be made because fools don't want to get demonetized or lose subscribers. And worst of all, the world misses out on the great contributions gaming could make as an art form to our political dialogue. You know, the tragedy of our political discourse right now is that we let cable and social media turn it into a street fight. It's just a fucking train wreck and we can't help but watch. We've been cocooned into these echo chambers and we just scroll through hate porn all day. We get hate porn updates on our phone. Here's a witty reason to hate half the country. Do you like that? Does that get you off? Everybody liked Skyrim. Everybody explored Skyrim, and they did it without getting triggered. It wasn't some toxic Facebook post or tweet that reinforced your hatred for people who don't think like you. It was just an epic poem that laid bare the pitfalls of nation states, the pros and cons of succession and diplomacy. It was a game that so masterfully demonstrated that the world is not black and white. It's not good versus evil. It's basically decent people with disagreements on how to stay safe and achieve prosperity fairly. Skyrim was open to interpretation. My take was always that the Stormcloaks had a point, and it wasn't that they were the bad guys, it was that maybe they were going about making that point the wrong way. Maybe I'm wrong, I'd love to hear why. I'd love to have a discussion about Skyrim with you, about the video game Skyrim. We need content like that now more than ever. Video games can be a platform for political dialogue in a way few other mediums can accomplish. Video games should be political, because gaming is an art form, and at its core, art is just a form of communication that goes beyond talking shit to each other. And we need artists to stand up now more than ever. In one of his final essays before he died, George Orwell talked about how all people have an urge to push the world in a certain direction. That's true, and it's happening all around you. In today's world, you have a billionaire class throwing mind-boggling amounts of dough to influence legislatures, to get colleges to peddle their bullshit, hiring publications to spread whatever message they want, whether it's flat earth, trickle-down economics, or trying to normalize Nazism. They're spending big, and it's effective, and it's working. They aren't intimidated by people being upset about the donor class. They don't give a shit if you don't like them. They aren't gonna stop. Conservatives decided money is speech. And the way things are set up, the average person is never going to have as much speech as the robber barons of our time. The common people will never own television stations. You will never be able to donate millions so a politician will take your phone call. You will never be able to fund think tanks and hire talking heads on the television as they can. You will never be able to buy as much advertising as they do. All we have left is our art. And I fear so deeply how our world will end up when psychotic billionaires have shaped it in their image and we never got a word in because we were too afraid of losing subscribers. Thanks for watching. Please remember to rate. This is Batman signing out.